Sup peeps, how's it going? Tufty here. Oh boy, you're in for a treat. Wow, that was enthusiastic. You're welcome. Hello guys, how's it going? We're going to be looking at some beautiful, juicy enclosure sentry spots today. I know, I'm excited. A fairly new payload map. I've been playing it a lot recently, trying out loads of spots, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Now I say this every time, but bear in mind there's obviously thousands to choose from, and I'm by no means saying that these are the definitive spots to choose. These are just some to spark your interest, to get you inspired to go out there and find your own ones and maybe try some of these yourself. Some of them are more obvious and some I've never actually seen anyone else use before. And as always, I'd love to hear your suggestions if I've missed any good spots in the comments below. And one last thing before we jump in, remember there is no perfect sentry spot. A good Uber or a good demo man should be able to take out pretty much any spot. I've seen comments in the past going, I'll have you know I can easily take out that spot, Tufty. Of course any spot can be taken down, right? But you know, some of these are really good, and if you have the right team with you, they can be really tough to take out. So let's jump in and see what we've got. Okay, so this is the very first area on enclosure. This is where the enemy team will be coming from. The majority will come down the middle. A few will try and flank round at either side. I don't actually expect many engineers to try and set up here. It's going to be a bit risky. It's definitely not ideal, but if you are eager to try a really aggressive spot, one that I've really enjoyed is just behind this cover, like under this tree here. This completely blocks the flank to the left. It obviously stops them pushing the car under the tunnel to the right, and it does have a view on the area in front of it above, but bear in mind they're kind of shooting down on you, so that can make things a little bit tricky. If a good demo man gets up there, they should be able to take you out very easily. But that being said, you can sort of set up a bit of a base, get some teammates around you, and put up a pretty good hold. So yeah, I'm just putting it literally behind this huge tree here, having a dispenser put somewhere in front of me so it's really in cover and my teammates can get to that nice and easily. This was a bit of a weird game because a bunch of engineers joined me in a minute. I do try to avoid games where, you know, a bunch of engineers build right next to you. It's a nightmare, don't do it guys. So as you can see, we're starting to build up a bit of a base here. My teammates are starting to, you know, recognise that we've got this dispenser that they can fall back to. And the whole area is in cover, so it acts as quite a nice hub for your team to fall back to because it's behind this huge rock. And as you can see, as the enemy tried to push through the left-hand side, my sentry has no problem taking them out. So you don't really need to worry about that side so much. But what you do need to worry about is a demo man or a soldier at the top there who can probably fairly easily just spam rockets down onto you. And if they eventually push the cart round to the right, it should be able to take them out too. You can always fall back, use your rescue ranger to keep it up, and then just retreat whenever you need to. Okay, so the majority of you engineers will probably want to be building in this room here, right at the beginning of the map. The enemies have 3 routes through. Obviously the one to the right is where the cart comes through, but this room provides loads of awesome opportunities for sentry guns. One that I see an awful lot actually is on top of this box here. I'm not a massive fan of this, it feels a little bit vulnerable to me. There are some quite long sight lines onto it, and so I'm not going to be talking about this one today. But you know, it's okay, I'm not dismissing it entirely. But another very standard one that I actually prefer is on the other side over here. This one's in way more cover. It shoots down to that middle route through really nicely, you'll see that in a sec. As they push the cart, you can really tank it, and it just about reaches that platform to the top as well, although you may have to be careful about that one. But that being said, by far the most awesome spot in this room, and I don't know why I don't see it more, is just on this ledge here. It's an absolute beauty. It takes a little bit longer to get set up, but it's totally worth it. It shoots down onto this entire area here. It's really awkward for the enemy to take out, and it covers the top flank kind of behind it as well. So let's jump in and take a look at how these play out. Okay, so the first one I mentioned is just on this ledge here. There's a huge metal pack. You can get set up really easily. It's pretty much designed for engineers. Dispenser just behind me. Telly in that corner there, obviously very important. But as you can see, as the enemies come through this middle route, it just about shoots them. And so it makes it really difficult for them to sort of peek. And anyone coming the main route through as well, obviously will be immediately pressured. This demo man was playing pretty smart. He was trying to get some sneaky, sticky snipes onto my sentry, but with the rescue ranger, I'm just pressuring him and pushing him back, and he can't afford to peek for that long, and so he does back away. In this game, I had a lot of pressure from that middle route through, and it sort of really proved out how good a spot this can be. Eventually they started pushing, you know, the actual cart through as well. I was able to tank. With a dispenser behind me, it wasn't too much of a problem. Ideally, if you do feel like you're about to go down, things were getting pretty hairy here, try and get out of there alive. And if you can get out of there with your level 3 sentry gun as well, that's just even better. Okay, so my absolute favourite spot on this map is in this little area here. You can walk all the way around. Takes a bit longer to set up, like I said. Get a dispenser up there quickly. Drop down a couple of times. Grab some metal. Get your buildings up. You should be able to get built up pretty quickly. And if you worked it out, you can probably figure out a nice build order too. So yeah, I like to have my sentry gun with its back to that edge there, with equal prominence to either side. And that's important because if they do flank round and come out this little shutter door behind us, it needs to be able to take them out too. Unfortunately, again, an engineer builds right on top of my face. Thanks very much. But as you can see, this spot, it shoots right down onto the car. Really awkward for them to even like see where it is before they could even, take shots at it. And it can also shoot directly below it too, quite nicely, because I've put it right on the edge there, so that's also really important. So yeah, I haven't actually seen many people build here. I recommend giving it a go. It's loads of fun, and it can be an absolute beauty of a spot. Okay, so let's take a look at the final straight of stage 1. I'm just going to quickly flip the map around here so it makes more sense. The first thing I wanted to mention is that it's worth bearing in mind that you can't build on top of this roof here, which is a shame really, because there could have been some nice spots up there, but throughout enclosure there's a lot of roofs you can't actually build on. So one of the more obvious spots that you might imagine would work really well is just underneath this roof on the far top right here. I'm not a big fan of this because as they come in through the main route at the bottom, it's the first thing they see, so it's really in the open and it's going to get spammed out really quickly. Another one I wanted to briefly mention is just up in this area here, and that's because this is a great last minute spot. If you just need to get something up real quick, they're just about to cap, you can whack a sentry here and it may just catch them off guard. But again, I'm not going to talk about this one today. Instead, I wanted to talk about a couple of more interesting spots. The first one being on top of this ledge here. This is great because you can fall back from one of the positions we talked about earlier on this high up ledge. You can fall back to here, pop up a sentry gun, and it has a really great view of this area below it. The second spot we'll talk about is actually underneath, inside this room here. Now this is something I've never seen really before, so it's a super unusual one. It shoots out this doorway here, attacking the cart from an unexpected angle, and draws attention away from the rest of your team opposite. So yeah, a really interesting one, and we'll take a look at this in just a sec. So if you haven't been able to survive from the spot we talked about earlier and just fall back, what you can obviously do is just do a sentry jump up here and get set up. Again, worth bearing in mind, it's not out of the question if you're not already up in this area. What I tend to do is, like I said, put the sentry gun as far forward as possible with it still being able to shoot down onto the cart. Dispenser a little bit further back. Obviously always spreading out my buildings is generally good practice for the engineer to do that. And obviously getting the teleporter up is really useful too, because it allows your team to come in, shoot down onto the cart, or if they prefer, if they're a scout, spy, they can use this corridor and get right behind the enemy. But as you can see, the sentry gun just about shoots anyone who does want to try and come down that corridor, although you really do have to keep an eye on it because they might be able to do, a quick poke and get some damage out, so you really need to look after this corridor and keep an eye on it. Anyone kind of opposite within that building or down by the cart, the sentry gun really doesn't have a problem shooting down onto them. And what I like to do is chill out right at the back of this little balcony to make sure I can't get backstabbed. I'm always super paranoid of spies, and I can just sort of shoot down onto the cart, help my sentry gun out, or just, shoot the enemies, which is actually a lot of fun with the rescue ranger because it's projectile and it feels real good when you get a nice long range shot. Again, the third time in a row, a nice engineer joins me up here. But to be fair, at least he's a little bit further away this time, so I'll let him off. So yeah, I think this is a real tricky one to take out if you are on the cart. It's another awkward angle and it can do just a bunch of damage and it's really fun to try out. Okay, so finally, perhaps the most unusual spot of this episode, underneath the one we were just talking about, in this room here. So I put the sentry gun so it can sort of shoot out the doorway, and it's kind of facing the doorway into this room as well. That's obviously really important because we don't want a soldier to peek that door and just get free damage onto your sentry gun. Dispenser just to the wall to the right. It's still worthwhile having a teleporter up, mainly to get yourself back in case you go down. As before, I like to chill out, my back against the wall because I'm terrified of spies. Shoot onto the cart, keep the pressure up, and like I said before, the beauty of this spot is it's a real distraction and it's drawing their attention from where your team is going to be spawning from. So your entire team will probably be on the other side of the cart, pressuring down from that kind of roof we talked about earlier. But at the last minute, they won't expect it. Sentry gun in here does loads of damage and should be able to take them out quite nicely. You got to keep an eye out for these sneaky ones though. This engineer had the right idea, just chilling behind the cart there. But yeah, really good spot, really good fun. One I've not seen anyone else use, so check it out. And that right there is why I'm so paranoid of spies. There we have it, guys, the first stage of Enclosure. 2 more episodes to come, look out for those, and they'll come in the following weeks. Let me know in the comments below if there are any cool spots that you found which I haven't mentioned today. Always love to hear from you guys. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.